do these words have in common? There's a door in my house I never open. Even in October when I hear that strange knock, knock, knock. You're probably suspicious that things like these are lurking on the other side of that door, words that hide the unknown. But you're not scared by plain lexical items. I mean, you need context, a narrative, a scary story. The kind that has an unknown menace that psychologically intimidates your characters. Add +1 points if the menace is linked to wider social ills. A sense of despair or hopelessness that comes over your audience as they fear that the menace is too powerful to handle. A MacGuffin, a person or object that drags us into the depths of fear without distracting us from the main story. A plot twist for added suspense, and, if yours is a psychological thriller, add another +1 if by the end we find out that the narrator telling us this true tale is also unreliable. So there's your scary story checklist. Good night, happy Halloween! What? Where did it come from? Okay, sure, the storytellers of old knew how to spin tales with monsters and ghosts like in Homer's Odyssey, spirit possession in Lady Murasaki's Tale of Genji, or even spooky settings as in Dante's Inferno. Ancient Sanskrit drama theorists even shrewdly separated that personal feeling of anticipation you have sitting there alone with your heart beating faster and faster and faster from the shared sentiment of terror that descends over the entire audience, and the reaction of horror that follows. But these high artists were focused on telling a perfectly balanced tale, not indulging our fears for hours on end. And then there's folklore. Local lowly tales of the shape-shifting aswang haunting the forests of the Philippines, or of spirits exiting the otherworld to walk the earth during the Celtic Samhain. Samhain, the very same harvest holiday behind our Halloween. Aha! Folklore and horror are both full of strange, mysterious, supernatural tales, but the path from one to the other isn't really direct. It took a reaction, the kind that happened in the Enlightenment as Europe grew more and more rational and sophisticated, and then Romanticism reacted with pure, raw emotion. Usually those emotions were nice emotions, but of course not all emotions are nice. One of these emotions was the sublime, the immense shock and awe you feel when looking at mountains or huge Gothic buildings. Philosopher Edmund Burke talked about this, the idea of horror and terror being feelings of the sublime. Pain and terror are capable of producing delight, a sort of delightful horror, a sort of tranquility tinged with terror. We want to be scared. We enjoy it. How sublime. Novelists took this dark emotional journey and created the Gothic trend around that time, turning medieval castles, towns, priests, and monsters into objects of fear. Over time, novels, movies, and games capitalized on these dark emotions to engineer our scary story checklist. Take that funny word MacGuffin. Sure, our story needs a menace, fear, uncertainty, and surprise. But Alfred Hitchcock thought, what if we had an extra item that grabs our interests and pulls us along? Here's a recent example, sort of recent. A little old skeleton key may not ultimately determine whether or not the spirits in the attic will snatch our bodies tonight, but it certainly keeps us curious long enough to stick around and find out what happens next. Modern horror uses elements like these to tighten our experience of fear from start to finish. So from folklore to rationalism, to romanticism, to Gothic, to modern horror, we have a whole history of scary prose to thank for this basic checklist we've come to love, or fear. Love to fear.
So if prose scares, poetry must haunt. Head over to my channel Critical Lit to find out more.